Well, good evening everybody, and welcome to Roundtable Live. This is actually the first Roundtable event that we've had in Australia, although we've had numerous Roundtable events around the world. This is the first one in Australia, so welcome and thanks very much for your participation tonight. My name is Peter. I'm going to be your host for the evening and the moderator for the panel discussion that will take place here at this table. The General Assembly of the United Nations approved by consensus in 2012 a resolution that recognises that human beings are an inseparable part of nature and that they cannot damage it without severely damaging themselves. So a very poignant point when you think about it. Scientists, according to the latest reports of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, state that we must stop working against nature as we have been doing for centuries and begin to work in harmony with it.
Okay. So more international awareness, more international communication, more collaboration for localization we see as an incredibly powerful and inspiring and positive movement, and I hope that you'll be interested and that you'll agree that we need to spread the word of localization. Thank you.
Key foundation values in a community garden. It's about sharing what you know, what you've experienced, and learning from each other. One of my greatest joys is watching people come together and work together to support each other in growing food. You know, to get 2 or 4 or 6 or 12 people all working together and pulling weeds and chatting and comparing. It just makes my heart sing. And so there's a lot of ego issues that come up, can I say just very politely? But it's a learning curve in how to get along with people. Somebody said the community garden is a template for world peace. If we can't get it right in a community garden, how are we going to get it right in the rest of the world? So it's interesting because, you know, we might have a common belief and value in growing food, but there's a lot of different personalities, a lot of different views, a lot of different ideas. So it's really an amazing experience getting all that together. Right?
And the real breakthrough that I see is sort of happening is not a technological breakthrough. It's a breakthrough within the human heart. And to this end, a meeting like this tonight is immensely more valuable than anything that you're gonna get from the local media. Instead of waiting for the media to change, I want to encourage everyone here to be courageous and start having these conversations in your daily life everywhere. Start bringing them into your circles, bring them into your companies, bring them into your environment. The stories of families swimming in rivers of runaway floods and nations at war with other nations because of water scarcity and traditional farmers losing their lands because of salination. We are missing the real story of how our actions have had an impact on each of these events. And it reminds me of somebody going down the river and the doctor jumps in and he pulls him out and resuscitates him, and then there's 4 more people that come down and they pull him out and they resuscitate him, and we're so busy watching these stories that we're not even looking upstream to see who's throwing these people in the river. And it's our daily actions that are doing it. It's not to feel bad or to condemn ourselves. It's to make some very simple shifts, as far as I can see. So tonight is an invitation. Thanks. Tonight's an invitation to engage in the deeper conversations that are shaping our lives. And I really acknowledge you all for coming out and showing up tonight, because it takes courage. You know, I don't know if any of you have caught me on the radio, but I have to take a deep breath before I take on some big issues. Water, Julian Assange, some big stuff. And it takes courage, and I recognize that, and I don't see any other choice. And usually somewhere within this authentic conversation, there is a critical moment where an inner transformation happens. And in traditional media, right about that time, they pop in and suggest that you buy a pair of shoes. They offer you a drink or a smoke. Anything to take away the discomfort. And our job here is to resist the urge, and to stay with the discomfort, and stay with the conversations. And staying with it will move you into the next crucial phase of your life and in the world. And it carries with it enormous possibilities. And that sense of discomfort will magically go. After the tragedy of 9/11 in the States, American President George Bush addressed the nation in this critical moment. And what he did was encourage people to go shopping. And it was a totally insufficient conversation for a nation that was ripe and ready for some self-reflection. And in that opportunity, we failed to confront the deeper cause of a multitude of important issues. And as a result, America and much of the Western world is left with a false impression that we are merely spectators. And this is an invitation to inhabit the larger conversations of what we want for ourselves and what we want for the world that we're leaving our children. I'm here to tell you tonight, the revolution will not be televised. The real revolution is happening right here in this room. The revolution is happening inside the person that takes all of this and makes a bold decision to forge your own path, see what needs to be done, and start doing it, irrespective of what the media says.
Oh my God. I was going to explain what mutual responsibility was all about, but Williams just nailed it completely. He couldn't have said it as precise, because it really came from the heart. Mutual responsibility is basically looking at the bigger picture, is stepping back and seeing that if we want to resolve any of the issues that we face, we need to really come back down to the core of everything. And mutual responsibility looks at that core as being the connection between us, how we relate together, how we get on together. And the words from William here, it nails it. We all felt that. Like, my heart's pounding. It's phenomenal, this connection that William has given us. But also the connection that I felt from Delta. It was such an amazing story. I felt that pain. And the amazing stories and the amazing information, it's such a diverse group of people. And they're all talking about the same thing. They're all talking about different topics, but effectively they're all talking about connection. You hear these words, connection and community, and working together, come up time and time again. And it doesn't really matter what problem we're talking about. If we're talking about climate change, if we're talking about economic crises, if we're talking about interpersonal crises, it all boils down to how we relate together, how we work together. And that's really why we're here tonight. We're here to establish a connection. We're here to connect together over a topic and see what comes out effectively. If you look at research like from Marcello, you see that nature is a complex and interconnected system, and everything affects everything else. We start to see that everything in the space that we inhabit is interconnected. All of us interconnected, and we with our environment interconnected. And if you look at the topics that we're talking about cooperation, we're talking about collaboration. And if you boil down the term collaboration, it means working together to achieve a goal. And you have to realize that in an interconnected system like nature, we as human beings are in a collaborative relationship with nature and with each other, whether we like it or not. Everything affects everything else. There was a World Monetary Fund research report that was released recently in the last couple of years, and it looked at all sorts of different crises. It looked at economic crises, it looked at ecological crises and human crises. And it realized, when it started to study all these patterns, it realized that where one crisis emerged, another crisis in a completely, effectively unrelated sector would also crop up. So we see that ecological crises actually can cause or can be some sort of catalyst in an economic crisis. So we see this interrelation. So we have to, first of all, realize that we are in a collaborative relationship with everything else. And the fundamental question that mutual responsibility asks is, are we working together in the best possible way? Are we working together with nature in the best possible way, or are we working together with each other in the best possible way? That's the fundamental question at the end of the day that mutual responsibility asks. And if you look at the environment, if you look at the ecological disasters, if you look at deforestation rates and extinction rates and all the problems, pollution that we see today, I think you have to ask yourself, are we as humans working in the best possible way with the environment? It's a very big question. Now, whether humans are directly creating climate change is still a very big debate, but it's pretty obvious that humans have a significantly larger impact upon nature than everything else. So you'd have to ask yourself, are we working with nature in the best possible way? If you look at human interpersonal connection, if we look at society, we see global depression rates rising, being almost the number one global disease. We see family breakdowns. We see the economic crisis. We see all these massive problems. So once again, you have to ask yourself, are we working together in the best possible way? Me personally, I think we could definitely be working together in a better way. So that leads to the question is, well, why are we not working together in the best possible way? And how can we work together in the best possible way? I think if you really look at how we work together and you really study yourself, and this is one of the points that William really nailed as well, is you have to have the courage to look at yourself and really study yourself and pay attention to your thoughts and your feelings. If you really scrutinize yourself, we work together in a competitive nature. And we've built up a global system based on competition. If you've seen Helena's movie, The Economic of Happiness, you see that we've built up massive, intensely competitive environments on economic levels that are so large that they affect the daily lives of all of us. If you look at it just on a personal level, and in an environment like this round table, just pay attention to your thoughts. Are you here just waiting for your turn to speak? Or are you here to truly listen to what the other person has to say? And this is this discomfort that William really talks about. We are driven by our natural instinct to survive. That's us as an animal. We want to survive. We want to better ourselves. That is our ego. And, we can pull, the elephant out of the room, whatever the saying is. Yeah, it is our ego, and the ego is not a negative thing. It's given us all that we have today, all this technology, all this wonderful stuff is created by our drive to create, our drive to create more and better things, and it's stimulated by competition. Competition is also a good thing because we compete against each other and we better each other. But this intense competition is something that leads us down a very dangerous path. And we see that right now. We see that in big business. Having this massive, intense competition drives big business to protect their investments, even if it's going to destroy the environment or even if it's going to damage a small community. Yeah, they need to protect their investments. This intense competition also drives very innovative and sustainable technologies like biochar. It makes it very hard for these technologies to reach a mainstream level and to really be picked up and spread across the world and implemented, because at some point there is some business who feels threatened by that technology and wants to protect its investment. And we see that time and time again, that technologies that could potentially cause massive changes in the world on an environmental level or on a social level are stifled by big business because they feel threatened by it. It threatens their industry model. So we've got to try and get to the root of that problem and overcome that competitiveness. And this is not going to happen by big business. This is not going to happen by political leaders. This is not going to happen by the super rich. They have too much invested in this to start breaking down this competitive barrier. It's also not going to happen by the very poor. The very poor are too busy trying to survive. It's going to happen by us. It's going to happen by people who have a choice. We have sustained our basic survival needs, and we have the ability to come to events like this to make change. And that change will happen, as William said, on this space, in these sort of platforms, or in platforms like the community gardens. I mean, you hear the joy that came from Jeanette just blew my heart away. It's amazing. And that's that joy of coming together and connecting. But there is discomfort. And that discomfort is our inherent competitive nature. So if we want to overcome this and try to get out of this competitive nature, it's through a process of education, or probably more importantly on our level, on an adult level, re-education. We've been taught from day one to be competitive, whether it be in sports or whether it be for jobs or material possessions. So we need to teach ourselves, re-educate ourselves how to think in a collaborative way, truly on a collaborative way, by scrutinising yourself. That's education. And if we can bring these sorts of projects, these sorts of education programs into schooling, for example, instead of teaching just base level knowledge, which now most students can acquire off the internet much faster than most teachers can teach them, if we actually teach collaborative thinking, how to empathise with each other, how to teach these basic skills at school, we're going to start students off on the right path from day one. And that's what mutual responsibility is all about. How can we get this type of education into the education system, and more roundtable discussions, more projects where we can practice our collaborative mind and heart, and how we can try and overcome this inherent competitive behaviour.
And quite recently I've been staying up at a community farm on land at Jasper Hall, just near Minion Falls. So being the change, that's why I'm here, is because I grew up in suburbia, and from a very young age I saw a lot of things I didn't like. And for a long time I was just frustrated, angry, as a lot of my friends still are that live up on the Sunshine Coast in the Gubby Gubby land, that are just disheartened, and so yeah, I came to sort of not so much escape, but find something a bit more productive. And I know that there's been people around this area doing it for a long time. There's a lot. There's almost the elderhood here now, which is something I think that is missing, you know. And so that's why I came here to this region and here tonight, just because I'm in the area, and it sounded like a beautiful thing to be a part of. So thank you all.
Hi, I'm Delta. I'm here too to learn more. Being an Aboriginal person from here, I've watched all my life our climate change. Today I walked the land with some students and talked about our bush tucker, and I'm frightened that our bush tucker isn't fruiting like it's supposed to. It's not growing where it's supposed to, and yeah, little things like that I've been watching over my lifetime, and it's scaring me. So I'm here to learn more. We nurture our family just like we nurture nature. We grow our family, and here in Byron Bay we have grown our community. You know, so many non-Aboriginal people in Byron Bay are my brother and my sister. It's very important. And again, let's get back to basics and have manners and listen and share, and don't be so stubborn and ignorant. Back to basics.
Yeah, nice one. But it's when there is a challenge and when you find people who don't necessarily agree or who behave in a different way, that's when it really becomes tricky. And how do you turn that around? Because it's not about forcing a point. You know, you can't do that. It doesn't work. It's like as soon as you force it, you fuel the fire. So how can you actually connect with that person on the level that you don't connect? I don't connect with that person. So how can I actually find the connection? And it's actually people who think like this, like-minded people like ourselves. It's our responsibility to actually do that. It's our responsibility to actually connect with people who don't necessarily think the same way as we do. And not change them, not try and push a point, but just connect and learn from them. You know, that's the thing. And I think it's very easy to connect when you all agree. But when you disagree, it becomes a lot harder.
That microphone pass around to each of the tables. And all we want to do is just to get a feeling, a summary of your impressions. Not from your head, but from your heart. What did you feel? What is it all about? And I'm going to honestly, just standing here or sitting here looking across the table, and the warmth and the sincerity and the connection that you're all making is amazing, and it's running shivers up my spine. So well done to you all. That's what it's all about. Thank you so much.
What I've seen lately is climate change isn't a problem. It's a symptom of a greater problem. And above all, it's a catalyst, and it's brought a lot of people together. A lot of people from this region have probably seen the CSG going on, and I mean, that's brought all sorts of people together. Everyone I've talked to on that issue is pretty much unanimous. No matter, you know, if you look at me and think I look weird, or you look at a guy in a suit and think he looks like a guy in a suit. Yeah, it's bringing people together, and it's this cooperation. And when asked this question, how can cooperation and mutual support, I just thought, how is that even a question? It's just, it can do it, and everyone here, I think, believes it. And I think that's what's going to change the world, is that belief. You know, it's not any one theory. It's about what you do. Is basically what he said, and I think that's right. We need to just start doing it. It's nice to sit around here and talk, be inspired by one another, but, you know, take it back out into the world. I think Ravian said that, and Sukana said that. Yes.
The greatest point is that we're all working on this together. You know, that's what's really inspiring me. You know, it's so powerful having all these people putting their love and their energy into creating this change. You know. And something that I'd love to share with you all, I don't know how many locals are here, but you know, there's a community garden here in Byron Bay. Yeah, I only found out the other day, and it pretty much consists of some cracked concrete and some overgrown weeds. So if you want to put some love into you know, this beautiful positive change in the world, that's a pretty good place to start. And I think what we got here, that the main point is that, you know, that this revolution starts, you know, it starts in here with our actions that we're doing on a daily basis.
The word love came up, getting back to trusting people. We spoke a bit about letting go and trust. And also a very important point I think was made, which is that we need to change our value system so that we can connect as a society. Thank you.
I think that this question is really poignant, actually. I think, you know, how can cooperation and mutual support bring about these changes? I think it it supplies the support and provides the encouragement which you need to show leadership in the world. And I think Bill McKibben, those of you who are familiar with climate change, like Bill McKibben said recently, like if you look at it, like we're not the extreme ones anymore. What we're proposing is, powering with natural systems, and like the guys who are digging out the coal and then transporting it on those massive trains and thousands of miles and then burning it and throwing this. Like, that's nuts, man. Like, that's pretty radical if you think about it. But it's just become so normal that we don't challenge it. And I think what's great about being sat at this table is you hear from complete random strangers perspectives and ideas which you would never even consider, and viewpoints which are like, oh yeah, I totally didn't even think of that. So I think in terms of like just thoughts on tonight, it's been really great to see what a powerful conversation amongst a small group of people, what difference it can make. So yeah, thanks.
Well, that brings us to the end of the evening, and what a absolutely special and fantastic evening it's been. I'd just like, just as a reminder for each and every one of you to leave your details, your email address, just if you want to jot it down. We will be having future events. We'll keep you advised of those. And make sure you check out our website, mutualresponsibility.org. And there's some fantastic connections on there. There's some great information, and there's also lots of opportunities for each and every one of you to become involved and to start spreading the message. And as I say, it unfortunately brings us to the end of the evening. It's been outstanding, and I want to thank each and every one of you. I want to pay special thanks to our esteemed panellists for making the effort to come along and make this unbelievable contribution this evening. I wish you and your families a safe journey home, and thank you and good night.